G'day, this is Adam from AVA Magnetic Levitation Australia, doing another Mad Micro RC Mods video. In this video, I won't go into too much detail at the start. I'll pretty much go straight into the video footage. I'll let the footage speak for itself, basically. This was a big surprise. I'll show footage of this car right now, when it was first finished, tested on carpet initially, then on concrete, and then there'll be a tick talk at the end with a couple little tips, and also show a little bit of how I managed to fit the 300 milliamp hour battery inside this little car. It was worth the effort, I can say that much. Hope to see you at the end of the video where I'm chitty chatting away and there may be some bonus footage. This is Adam out. See you then. G'day and welcome to the channel. This is Adam from AVA Magnetic Levitation Australia, doing another Mad Micro RC Mods Tech Talk. This will basically be the short version of how I managed to fit the 300 milliamp hour battery into an Atomic Racer or WL Toys 939 short course truck, or a WL car 124 scale short course truck. It's now sold in Australia again at RC Garage. Now, before you can fit a 300 milliamp hour battery into a standard body, you've got to make some changes. The battery clearly does not fit. It's way too big. So first, the body changes I'll go over. what you have to do is you have to cut out all the plastic for the on-off switch and blank it off, which I've done on this one here. And also there's a little post there, if you can see, where the board sits on. Reduce that. Cut it out from the bottom and leave a bit at the top, or remove the whole thing. I've removed the whole thing. Also inside the body here, if you can see these two posts, there's not enough room for the battery between these two posts, so you've got to actually shave off some plastic off these posts. About 1/2 mil aside is enough. The other body modification you've got to make is to the top of the body, where you have to cut out a hole for the on-off switch because it's no longer in the bottom. So they're the body mods. Now you've got to modify the board as well. Stock standard boards have the on-off switch on the bottom, but that will fail with the battery. There won't be enough room. So what I did on this one is I removed the on-off switch from the bottom and transferred it to the top, so I had to desolder it. Batteries. To make it fit, you've got to strip the plastic casing off the battery, which will leave you with something like this. And I've decided to route my wires cross them over and route them around the pins, because I don't know if there's going to be enough room between the battery and the board to run the wires over the top of the battery. So yeah, I'll route them sort of around like this. I'll just show you an example. I've got to resolder different wires on. And I highly recommend that you insulate the battery end, fold it over, insulate it a little bit, and also put a bit of cardboard over the top of the battery. Sometimes the boards will have spikes and things on the bottom. You can deal with them a bit, but just to be safe, cardboard over the battery. So, they're the main things you have to do to fit a 300 milliamp hour battery. I'll basically get started now. Okay, so far I've soldered on the battery leads with them crossed over. I've also insulated them with a bit of tape. I've put the battery in position and I've started routing the wires. If you can see, I've sort of gone up and around here, and also at the top I'm doing the same thing now, where I'm basically getting the wires fed in. Okay, so this is what the final routing will look like. I just have to mark these wire ends, tin them, and solder them to the board, and then mount the board in. So this is how I normally do my soldering. I just get a cheap soldering stand, it's got a clamp, I get a bit of foam or whatever just to protect the board, clamp it in there, solder the battery to it. When you're soldering batteries, take precautions. You're working with a live battery. If you get it wrong, it's going to short out really fast. Lithium ions have a habit of overheating quick, puffing up. If they do, scrap the battery, start again. So yeah, basically, as you can see, positive on the switch side, negative opposite side. Positive, negative on the motor doesn't really matter, but you know, it's up to you. If you use a connector like I do, you can switch it around if it's back to front anyway, after the build's finished. If you notice on the side here, I've probably put this wire in the wrong direction, and I'm going to have to redo that one. The board is pretty much the edge, or the limit of what you've got to work with. Okay, I've soldered the battery to the board, put the battery in, I've put the board on top. Something to note is the top housing, you have to remove some material from this screw hole. You also have to do the same to the screw mounting point inside under the battery there. And probably paste or just put a note there so that when you're reassembling the car, you're not accidentally putting a screw through the battery. I'll probably glue this casing back together on this one just gently and deal with it later if I need to. Okay, before I go any further, just really quickly, a little bit of battery safety. This is important if you're going to do these mods. It's actually critical, so please pay attention. No, I'm being serious. What you have to do is, or keep in mind, is when you get an RC toy, they generally, as a safety precaution, have a battery like this that has a little chip in there, which just helps restrict the flow of current in and out. It's sort of a safety measure, really, more than anything. The battery in these cars is a 120 milliamp hour battery compared to this one, which when you buy these S1 batteries, they don't have any restrictor chip or any sort of safety protocol chips on them or anything like that. So what you have to do is get your controller, got your charge lead at the bottom, You can take the controller apart and just desolder or cut the charge lead off inside and put it back together, or you can just cut it off short here, and you need to make up some kind of an adapter so that you can charge the car with this plug back through the normal socket here or whatever, but not using this controller ever again, because this controller will only charge batteries like this. If you try and charge batteries like this inside the car using this controller, it just won't work out. It causes problems. You'll never get a full charge and stuff like that. So, and you may kill the battery. Best thing to do is take this lead off and make an adapter. Now what I tend to do, because I've got a 9 Eagles charger, the S1 charger that works really well, is I cut the lead off. I got the end of a 9 Eagles battery, made up an adapter. So I just plug this into my 9 Eagles, controller, which has a charging plug in it, and then I just plug that into the car, and that's how I charge the batteries up now. Well, all my cars, when I modify them with these sort of batteries, straight away I go to one of these. That's the only option. The other option, I suppose, is what I've done in some of the other ones, where I just mount the battery externally and have a lead coming outside, and then you just take the battery off and plug it into an S1 charger, which is your other option. But for the purposes of this, I want it inside the car and I want it nice and low. So there we go. I'll just do a bit more of this together, give you a look. Okay, the 300 milliamp hour car is finished. The battery fit, the car works. It's sort of got that Nitro funny car look about it. I haven't really decided on the ride height. I can actually change that still. I can drop the rear a little bit with a spacer or a blocker. Not sure. It's more about function for now, so I'll take it out and do a test with it high speed today, and I'll try it with and without and see what happens. Before I take it out and possibly wreck it, let me show you its features, as George from the Slingshot channel would say. Anyone who doesn't know, George is a German guy, likes to make slingshots, has a channel called the Slingshot channel. Have a look at my playlist. I did a parody comedy about him, and yeah, I think his show is brilliant and hilarious. So, anyway, this is the car. I'll just quickly go over what I did to it. Let's see, I glued the front together instead of screwing through the battery. I've also chopped 5mm out of the front body spacers or body mounts, and I've got these foam packers on there just so that the body doesn't vibrate or anything. It's nice and tight on there. Down the side here where the ball pivot is for the suspension, I jammed a piece of Depron. It's like 2mm Depron foam. You can use it for everything. Just jam that in there, stiffen it up. Also down the sides here I got some of that 0.5 by 10mm carbon fibre sheet or strip and glued a piece on either side. It just helps stiffen up that rear end a little bit. The rear end I selected for this one was one from the Beatbox project that didn't work out, so it's a fairly fresh new rear end that's never really been used. Ball bearings, world's fastest bolt tyres and stuff on it, 8x20 50,000 RPM motor with a fairly big pinion, running an open gearbox, but where I go is pretty dry and clean. Other things I did to it is I've got the 2 standard shocks on the outside there, the springs, but then I've also put in a third one in the middle there with a foam dampener, so it's the little car's stiff as buggery and has a little bit of an actual dampening effect. And also been playing around with using different kinds of materials as blockers in the back suspension when you lock out the rear suspension, because you can glue this, like this is heat shrink for instance, you can glue that in there, and rather than having a sudden hard plastic on plastic stop when the suspension comes back, it's dampened on that, so it actually seems to help with the car at high speeds. Just another little tick tip there. So that's basically the car. I think that's about all. Oh yeah, and the other main thing is the on-off switch is now on top instead of being underneath where it used to be. Oh yeah, and the one other thing I had to do to fit these tiny little front wheels was, if you have a look up inside the top, really impossible to see. Yeah, there we go. These pins at the top of the pivots, steering pivots, little metal pins you can see just poking through there. I had to grind them right down, or actually file them down, because they were hitting on the rims. So yeah, so there was a little bit of work involved to doing it, but none of it was hard. It's all pretty straightforward stuff. And yeah, the end result, I'm quite happy so far with what I've seen it do and the sort of RPMs it's got. Before I go, I'll just really quickly definitely got power. A little bit spare. So yeah, I'm pretty sure or confident that S1, if you built the right car in the right conditions on the right day and you had enough run up, 100 kilometers an hour would not be hard to achieve. Don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near that yet, but that might become the goal after I hit 60, you never know. So, if you like what you see, please share, subscribe, spread, thumbs up, tell other people how much you like watching my show. Hope to see you next time round. This is Adam from AVA Magnetic Levitation, signing out.